All right, welcome in everyone, American and Leeds. So pumped and excited to have Michael and Locky, two of the smartest fans I know about Leeds United and everything. It's just been a great time. Promotion. We are promoted. There's been some chat about the gaffer. We'll talk a little bit about Daniel Farke in due course, but I just want to get your guys' thoughts. We're promoted. I mean, how are you feeling about the promotion? I guess the season, you can kind of relax now. Michael's got the bucket hat on. So we'll go to you first. How are you feeling about the whole season? It's been a minute since we talked.
Yeah, it's been a while. Brilliant. So great. I think going into the season, we had the expectation that it will happen. It's really wonderful to not be let down by Leeds United again. So many times we sort of joke about Leeds United ruining our weekend or more, when we fail to reach goals like this, and they did us proud this time around. So well done. Well done to the lads. Great job all around. And it's a wonderful, magical time, at least for a little while.
It is. Yeah. And I was starting to scout the Premier League for the first time in a long time this week. We'll talk a little bit about that and what's kind of been going on. I also think there's nuance with all 6 teams that's been relegated in the past 2 seasons. But Locky, how are you feeling about promotion and the season as a whole? We only have 1 game left, 30-foot view of what you see from the season. What do you think?
Yeah, it's been outstanding when you take away the dread that we have as Leeds fans every week. It's been very good, and the fact we can get 100 points, 100 is insane to me. Nearly 100 goals as well. It's not even 100 goals in a season. That's what Man City do.
Yeah.
That's what they did in the Premier League. It's crazy stuff. So from that perspective, I'm so happy. Like Michael said, I don't know how long it's going to last, but it lasts at least a week. We've got at least one more week to enjoy it. I will. I'll enjoy every day. I'll smile every day. I'll be singing Leeds songs as I'm walking around, just happy. I'll see my Leeds shirt in my cupboard and just be happy again. And we're in the Premier League. And I'm just waiting for the season to end so we can enjoy, the links we're going to get to all these really good players. And then we're going to the Prem next year. And,
This team compared to last year's, it seems like it was the right team. You lose definitely some star power there with Archie Gray, Jorginho Rutter, and Crescencio Somerville, of course. But there was something about, I think this team was the better team in the fact that they were all playing for each other. You had less chaos in some of the, I guess, exit clauses in the summer, but it just seemed, I don't know, the only way I can put it into words is this team was the right team to get us up. What do you think, Michael, if you compare the 2 squads?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at where the goals have come from this year, it's, we have more outlets for that, which has been really helpful. I think back at the very start of the season, and I don't remember if it was here with you or it might have been over with Jer on his pod, but we talked about how the squad would seem, although we're missing some of the star power, it would seem to be more balanced going into the season. And I think that really played out. Notwithstanding that the manager doesn't necessarily use all the resources that are available to him. And I know we're going to get into some manager chat a little bit later. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're going to be getting into that manager chat. But overall, I think the squad was a lot more balanced, and some of the players that were maybe newer, they settled in really nicely. And we've had goals, obviously goals galore, coming from all over the place. The use of our fullbacks, for example, in that regard has been phenomenal. Obviously not something that's going to be able to happen next season, but let's enjoy it while it's lasting, right? It's been great to see. And I think you're right. I think there's a lot more going on this season in terms of squad balance and squad harmony and the way that they've linked with one another and played with one another. That simply wasn't the case last year. It seemed that last season, if things weren't going well, we kind of just defaulted to one outlet or the other, right? Get the ball to Rutter or get the ball to Somerville, And it became, I think, towards the end of the season, it became very obvious for a lot of teams to defend against. And although we started to have the same wobble a little bit this season, I think the fact that we have a more balanced squad allowed us to pull out of it. Like we didn't become so predictable in the same way that we did the season before, and we were able to pull out of it. I think that's part of the reason why.
Right. Yeah, the out and out fullbacks, I think, has certainly helped us. I think we've probably upgraded in midfield slightly. I mean, Al Tanaka has been a great addition.
Oh, sure.
And then, so I think there is more balance, to your point, in the squad. Locky, what do you think? How do you compare the two squads?
Yeah, similar to Michael. I think I'd loved this team with Rutter in the 10.
Oh,
And we were, obviously he's doing really well in the Premier League, so it was the right move for him, obviously. But we were so close. I think the release clause was triggered in the last few hours of it, which is heartbreaking. Just imagine this team with him in there. And I honestly think we'd have got over 100 points, but you can't have everything, can you?
The Valencia game, it was like in the preseason, he scored some something crazy. Like it went viral. The goal that he scored in that against Valencia, who's top tier Spanish side. He did something crazy. I can't remember. And it was kind of like you wanted to keep not even let him see the light of day after that happened. But oh my God.
Exceptional footballer. But I feel like the joy you got from Rutter has been replaced in a different way by Tanaka. I think the fan base just absolutely adore him. But for me, the fullbacks are massive. I think Firpo had a really good second half to last season, and this season has been ridiculously good. Jayden Bogle, I love Archie Gray, but obviously he didn't have that attacking output that Bogle had. And watching Jayden Bogle down that side is an absolute joy. I think Dan James, as well as good as he was last year, he's improved as well. I do think he looks more all-rounded. And then you brought in Solomon Ramazani to replace Somerville. It is more balanced. Perot's role I like more this year. You know, when he's on it, he looks really good to show Perot. And you brought Aronson in there, who brings a certain thing to the team. And I think it is, in a way, probably not as the heights in terms of individuals as last year, but as an 11 works extremely well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously not as talented, I think, on the ball as Jorginho Rutter is, but he certainly is. He's a team player. You know, he's going to give max effort. He's going to be available. He's going to press. He's going to do the little things that he can. He kind of reminds me of a Bamford, but in the 10 in a way, because if it's not going well with him, he's going to try to contribute. If it's not going well with him in the final third or in the box, he's going to try to contribute in other ways he knows that he's capable of. So look, when we look at teams, and this will be a team in the history books that we look back at, coming off the squad before, I just feel like that was the right team. They played for each other. They played the right way. We didn't have necessarily square pegs and round holes, and it fit. We could go in player for player. Is this person Premier League ready? Is keep, sell, replace, or whatever videos. Those will be, I'm sure, already wound up and ready to go for content creators and everybody else, and journalists, etc. But I just want to take a step back, and I did look a little bit at the Premier League and the 3 relegated sides. And I specifically looked at Ipswich because they gave it the biggest go. And it was just, if we look at, and maybe I can bring it up, Ipswich's record. But we need to take all of them into kind of their own. I feel like the past 6 sides have all been kind of like, well, they're not good enough. Like if you listen to kind of traditional media into England and even in the United States. Well, these they're just so bad. Well, it's like, okay, we know they're bad, but can you elaborate? Like, why are they bad?
Yeah.
So obviously Leicester lose Maresco. That's huge. They lose their gaffer that they're going up with. They kind of play catch up the whole season, switching between philosophies. Southampton, very stubborn, play out of the back all season, do get punished, don't make a ton of upgrades. And then Ipswich really went from League One to the Championship to the Premier League very quickly. Same thing happened. So same thing happened with Luton. Luton elevated very quickly, and they necessarily weren't ready. So those are really four sides where you all kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. But let's share. I just wanted to share the Ipswich record. Really, they start off with such a hard schedule. Let's see, that's the cup. They start off with Liverpool and Man City. Okay, so you're 0-2 right there.
Yeah.
The gaffers probably of Ipswich is thinking between, they played this beautiful, expansive Bielsa type ball. Do they want to continue with that? Well, if Liverpool and Man City are tough games to coach that out of, or, you don't really know how you're going to play it, but you're 0-2 right there. Then you work quite a decent series of draws. You draw with Fulham, you draw with Brighton, you draw with Southampton, you draw with Villa. Okay, so you're unbeaten in your last four.
Yeah.
And then you get thumped by West Ham 4-1. And you're thinking as a test of your system, okay, am I in trouble here? So now you're thumped 4-1 against West Ham. You lose to Everton. I'm sorry. So like alarm bells are sounding probably if you're there. There's two balls where they're in that Everton game where they give it up in the box and Everton just smash it. So they didn't really clear it. Their back line struggled. And then this Brentford game I rewatched. Brentford, they play exceptionally well. They're up 2-0 against Brentford. And then Brentford's like, okay, we understand how you're going to play. Brentford come back and scored 2 goals immediately. And so Smotic scores 28, Hurst scores at 31, and then they score back-to-back goals in the 45th and 45th minute to tie it going into halftime. They give up Liam Delap scores. Now they're up 3-2. No, I'm sorry.
Bruno scored a penalty.
Scores there. But they're tied. They actually draw all even. Down a man. They go all even in the 86th minute, and then they give up a penalty in the 90s in like the last minute. And it's such a difficult. That's like Premier League PSD for me. This game was rewatching this because you just got outclassed. They figured you out and they played you. They eventually played you. And even though you tied the game up down a man, they figured out how the dark arts work and they got a result. So that was really a heartbreaking loss for them, for a well-established club. And then it just kind of becomes from there. Of course there we go. Once December hits, that's when the losses really start kind of piling up, and then it's gone. I mean, you're really struggling once you start to lose consecutive games, and you're still not finding a real win. I think their first win is
well.
What's that?
Red cards, too many red cards.
Yeah, cards. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was noticing that too. They're getting cards each season, specifically in their back line.
Yeah, discipline problems, and those pile up too, right? Because it's not just how it affects that game, but the fact the player's not available for the next one or more, depending. So that starts to pile up too, especially when you've got a squad that came up so quickly, like they did. right? So
Yeah.
you don't necessarily have a full squad of players that can actually compete at that level. And if you start
Right.
losing them to red cards, then it gets even worse for you.
So my thinking really is at least the 3 promoted teams, and when I specifically look at Ipswich, their back line was not ready.
No.
And so that's my first thought. We need to probably upgrade the back line, specifically at fullbacks. You alluded to it, Michael. Just not only, I'm not saying Firpo and Bogle aren't good enough. What I'm saying is that we need at least depth there, and I would probably question re-signing Firpo, but as well as center half. And then the other thing I'm going to propose to you guys is playing out of the back. I've watched a lot of podcasts, full Liverpool are up, right? Liverpool went and won the title. And this whole argument of, is possession-based football dead? Like, I'm hearing this, like you're kind of, it looks, and what Pep's kind of been put in his place a little bit. Ange's system hasn't worked. I could go on. Manchester United has been in so many different thoughts. They don't know where they're at. And the club philosophy of playing out of the back, obviously what happened to Southampton.
Yeah.
So what do you guys thought? What are your guys' thoughts on that? So two-pronged question. Defensive back line upgrades and then playing out of the back. We'll go Michael first.
Well, I was gonna say I've gone first a couple times. I want to go Locky first, but it's okay. I can go whatever you like. I'll do one first, and you can do the other. So I'll talk defensive upgrades. So yes, we need to get some defensive upgrades, and yes, we need more. I think we just simply need more players there. We don't have enough. So if any of our players go down, we don't have anyone else that can really cover at the level that we're going to need. We're almost in that situation already, so it'll be exacerbated in the Premier League. I'm heartened, I think, by the fact that some of the links and who knows if they're real or not, based on the players. But the fact is that we've been linked with defenders, right? So far in the rumor. So, I mean, I think even if those links aren't true, like specifically to those players, I think it at least means that other people are also recognizing that that's what we need. And so it makes sense to like have those out there as potential signings, or at least as rumors that seem plausible. So to me, I mean, it makes sense. And I think we definitely need to do that. That's not saying anything bad at all about the players that we have there, but depth for sure. And then, in terms of play style too, just to touch very briefly on what you're saying, because I'd like to hear what Locky has to say about it. But I think currently our central defensive unit, so if you're looking at Strauch, Rodon, or even Ampadu if he's filling in there, they're really good at that sort of possession-based playing out from the back, driving forward with the ball themselves and getting things started. And I don't know how much we're going to be doing that next season. So maybe we need some more very defensive-minded defense. Not Rodon, I think already is, but Strauch, who I adore and absolutely love, I worry if perhaps he's more attacking and less defensive than what we're going to need next season. Only time will tell, but I do think there is a potential there that we need someone else, if not necessarily to say he's not good, let's replace him, to say some situations are going to need someone who's more of a stay-at-home, like very firm defensive, center back, rather than someone who's going to be, more offensive-minded as a center back. So that's sort of my thinking on it. And again, not taking anything away from the players that are there, because I love them.
Sure. And the goalie will be key in this too.
Yeah, that's the other one.
You know what I mean? Locky, what do you think? Playing out of the back and then defensive upgrades.
Yeah, it's a strange one, playing out from the back, because I think, especially when you watch, the Monday Night Footballs and all the pundits talking about, I think it's very easy to say Southampton are not good enough to play out from the back because they don't have good enough players. But you've got to look at this way. So say they play out from the back and they concede 4 goals a season from trying it and getting caught, leading direct to a goal. The alternative for them is to do something that they've never done, which is go long. Now, when you go long, what do you need? You need a big striker to hold the ball up. You need to be good on second balls. So you need the players to do that. Do they have the players to do that? Probably not. So they'll lose the ball more by going long. It's just not in front of goal. So it doesn't look as bad. But the actual fact is, no matter what they do, the opposition you're up against is probably superior to you because they've had years in the Premier League. It's so hard for any newly promoted team to, in that situation, be right. For me, it's a mix. I agree with Michael said. I think Rodon's really good in this situation because he can drive with it. I don't think the Southampton defenders can. I think if you are being pressed, usually the ball centre back, that's when he's got to take that risk and drive out with it to break that line. And Rodon's really good at that. So I like that side of it. But we're different, I think. We don't want to really play out as in Southampton did it completely different. They get 8 or 9 guys in their own half. We actually don't. We have 2 or 3. Everyone else is high up. So we're quite good at pinning teams high up. So we have overloads out wide or whatever. So I don't think it'd be that bad. Having said that, you do, if it's one of them games where they've got your number, it's not working, then you know what you need to do. You need to go long. And this is where players actually like Tanaka and Aronson are very good for second balls. So when you do go long, you're on that second ball because second balls are probably underappreciated in football. They're massive. You know, when the ball's out of the air, who gets there first? You know, can you read that?
When I saw Liverpool play Tottenham, and I know Tottenham was, I don't know, they're not there right now, but Liverpool got so many second balls. I mean, it was just everything. And that can be probably demoralizing as a player on the pitch when you can't get a second ball. Yeah.
So I think Locky's probably having some terriers out there, you know, that are really good at latching onto those things and like herring around like mad to get to them. I think you're right. That is key. It's a certain energy level, I think, that you need, that those types of players bring.
Yeah, and aggression and that desire. But that's why for me, we're so good in possession because we're good at winning second balls. You know, it's one of our best parts of our game, and I hope we can bring in 1 or 2 more players who are good at that. Because you are right, if it's a situation where we're playing out and we've been caught 2 or 3 times, you can't keep doing it. You've got to find another solution, and I think we will because I do think we have players that can. I'm not sure Southampton do. And I just want to on the what was the other one? I've forgotten. What was the other topic?
Just to upgrading to the defenders.
For me, it's always going to be hard in the Premier League because even I look at fullbacks in the Prem. Most of them are attack-minded. There's not many guys who are good at both. I think no matter who we get in, you're playing against a world-class winger every single week. They will get done most weeks. I would like an alternative to what we have, though. I agree. I would like a more, a safer option at fullback if that's required. I do love our guys, and I think goals are going to be really important for us next season because that is what we are. We score goals. So we need their output, but there will be situations where we do need more defensive, solid players. But even if you get them in, like I said, you come up against a Mo Salah or even you look at Kuna at Wolves, one of the lowest, 17th in the league or 16th in the league, and he's outstanding. Every winger in this league is ridiculously good. Yeah. So it's almost impossible to find a fullback that can match up wingers in this league for me.
When you look at squad build, Locky, knowing the squad build now, what adjustments would you make going into the Prem? Like, would you, how do you think like a system that Farke has, the 4-2-3-1, like how do you think, I think he has some flexibility, not in the formation, obviously, but in the principles of it. I think, he's on record as saying we always want the ball, but I don't think that's necessarily true. He'll give up possession and try to cause a turnover high up the pitch. Like, what do you think? How do you think the system can adapt to the Prem? And knowing I
loved the way we played against Bristol. I think the speed in which we got it from Rodon or Ampadu at the back straight into Perot with one pass in time. I thought it was outstanding. But when he got it, we had 2 or 3 players pushing forward or in behind him. It wasn't like we did it and then reacted. We were ready for it. I think that's something we have to do more. It's when we're passing it between our centre-backs, it's great. It's fine at this level. But for me, in the Prem, we have to take more risks going forward. That passing to Perot, in any league, that'll do the midfield. It'll take the midfield out of it. So it's about being proactive. So I think if we do that more, if we look for them spaces into Perot, whoever that is up top, that person is key for me. Really important. Whoever that is up front, they are vital. And then you have the wingers and the runners behind the player. And then we're attacking, 5v3 on their defence or 5v4. I think we need to play like that. There's got to be times where we have to take that risk. And there will be times where that won't work and it'll get cut out. But for me, it's about, we're not going to be able to outpass everyone in this league. We're not going to. We need to be direct more for me. So I think that's a way of doing it. And also when we do that, I think if we bring in 1 or 2 physical players, a real physical box-to-box midfielder for me and a number 10 who can drive with the ball at pace and also work hard is vital. And a number 9 who can find them areas, hold the ball up. So physicality for me and a bit more directness, but not directness as in hoof it long, like we did against Bristol. Did you guys, when we just found that striker straight, I loved it. I love that type of football. Mate.
So the spine.
Yeah.
And when you say somebody a bit more physical, like a midfield destroyer type?
Yeah. Box to box.
Kind of.
Carry the ball.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, not a sitting deep midfield destroyer, like someone who can go box to box. Yeah, I agree. I think this season we showed that we can do. Last season we did a lot of horseshoeing the ball around the back, right? Like slow build up, get up, turn around, send it back. A lot of side to side stuff, and we did a lot less this year. I think in part because of the personnel that we have, so the profiles are a bit different, right? So last year, we had players that would tend to do that more often. Right now, I think the only one that does that a lot is probably Ilya Gruev, and largely because he is extraordinarily one-footed. He won't even touch the ball with his right foot, so that limits his passing options. He's great. Like he gets around, and I think his defensive coverage is amazing, but he's not super useful going forward at all because he's very limited and very one-footed. But we do a lot less of that now, and I think Locky, exactly what you said, like in the Bristol match. Line breaking passes quickly and making the defense go backwards at pace, I think will be really useful. And I think we've been able to do that a little bit more this season, and Bristol's a great example of that. So I agree with you completely on that. I think if we play the patient game, and I think what you're talking about with possession football, Alex, is like this idea of passing it around and just waiting for an opportunity and being slow. We're going to get picked off doing that. So we're just
absolutely.
So we can't do that. I think we do need to be a little more physical and definitely almost blitz teams as much as we can. And I think as long as Farke sets it up so that we have a good rest defense, like people to cover and defenders that have recovery pace, we'll be okay.
Yeah. The other thing that's
anyway.
No, you're you're fine. The other thing that's come to mind is Forest and their whole approach under Nuno and how effective it's been. And the Chris Wood resurgence has been crazy. So we'll see where they land.
Finally spending the Chris Wood money on upgrading the stadium.
That's it. I know. I mean, those renderings looked incredible. What are your thoughts about the stadium upgrade? I mean, Michael, what did you think? Were you like, finally?
No, I love it, man. I'm thrilled. I've watched that video more times than I care to admit.
All right.
Yeah, beautiful.
Locky, good to see.
It's still Leeds, but better. For me, that's what it still looks like our stadium, just better, which is what we wanted. I'm buzzing, mate. I just on a side note, I'm so excited for the future of this club right now. I genuinely am. I think we're in a great place. If we can just stay in the Prem, which is obviously easier said than done, I think we can. The ownership for me, I know people have the concerns, and rightfully so, I guess, but I think their vision and you know, Alex, obviously you've mentioned this before on some of your videos. They're winners. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Well, I think that they're interested in winning. I don't think they're very much into the background noise. Like this whole, and I guess we'll start to transition to the gaffer, but this whole noise around Farke and the Daily Mail, which could have been leaked, might not have been leaked. You know, I just think that like people are saying, well, they got to respond. The silence from the 49ers is deafening. And it's like, what is Parag going to say? What would he say? Would he say, you know what, you got me. We're evaluating the manager. To me, you're always evaluated, right? I mean, that, like if you're at a job, you're evaluated. Every club is evaluating every manager in the Premier League to the championship, and they're saying, you know, and it's game to game. They're going, wow, that wasn't a good game. We'll get, you know, what if this continues? They have to do that. They have to hedge their bet. They're in hedge funds. You know what I mean? They're used to this kind of stuff. So I just think they're more business-like. And when you don't hear from them, they don't want to give anything oxygen that doesn't need to be. They're focused on other things. So I just was perplexed by, you know, again, as an American, kind of looking at a story that seemed to be a non-story, although could be true. I mean, they could be looking at other managers, but that's normal. I mean, Tottenham's looking at other managers, you know, half the Premier League's looking at other managers and have a short list, just like, it wasn't the right move, but right. Rads had a short list. And Victor Orta had a short list.
Lined up long before Bielsa exited, right? Like he was to take over eventually.
Right. Well, he was on the list. He was certainly on the list. And even like when you looked at Victor Orta's short list to replace Jesse, which they weren't ready, but Slot, Areola, the manager of Villa, like they were pretty good. That was a pretty good short list. You should always have a short list of managers. And so anyways, that's my thought on that. And I'll talk to you. What do you guys think of that story that broke? And then, you know, I'll also say evaluating Farke. Michael, you've said in some chats, I'm going to publicly say that you said I'm a Farke. I'm Farke questioning.
Skeptical. Yeah.
Farke. I identify as Farke skeptical. Which is good because I am too. Yeah. I'm like, there's times where you're kind of scratching your head. The whole goalie issue, right? That went with Meslier for a little bit too long. Yeah. His inability to really change formation, use subs. There does seem be some robotic elements to what he thinks about how to approach a game. He's not all positives. It's not like how it was under Bielsa, really. There's been some negatives. His expectations have been probably a little bit higher, but I guess we'll switch it up and go with Locky. But yeah, just your thoughts on the story and your thoughts on Daniel Farke this season.
Yeah, I agree. It was there. There was a lot of noise. And for me, and this is trivia, I know it's probably pathetic, but I just think if the club just posted a nice little picture of him, we've done it before, you know, when Nonto was linked away, I think Rutter as well in the January of the season we did go up. It was like they just put a picture of him and all the fan base relaxed. I feel like they could have done that and that's it. Just a little picture, you know, one where he's banging his chest. Because they were putting pictures up all day because obviously we've just been promoted. And there were no Farke ones. So just give us one and then maybe everyone would have been calm. But apart from that, what else really can you do? I think it's whether it was fed by the club. I do think it's shocking that it was out there. I don't know whose fault that is or where that came from, but the fact that it's theirs, I think it's unfair on him. I don't know whether that's down to the journalist or whatever, but he's just been promoted and it's just harsh on him. He don't care though, does he? He's not bothered. You can tell from his pressers, he's not bothered. He knows who he is. He knows what he's doing. He knows he's got this team to the Premier League. So, but I agree. It's so interesting and difficult and contrasting this whole Premier League Farke or whatever situation, because there's two sides to it for me. I really like him, and I think he 100% deserves a chance based on the job he's done. But on the other hand, you could be in a situation where there could be this outstanding coach, Now, as an ownership, can you seriously turn a coach? I don't know where that could be, by the way. Can you seriously turn a coach that's done good things in Europe down? I'm talking, for example, Terzic, who was at Borussia Dortmund, who got in the Champions League final. He's free. If he approaches and says, look, I'm interested in the job, can as an ownership you not consider that? Of course you will, like you said. Yeah. These are what the ownership are looking at. But then the other side of my brain, and, Farke's done a really good job. He's done outstanding. Nothing's perfect, obviously. There is criticisms there. But potentially 100 points and 100 goals is ridiculous. So it's about just being prepared. What I'm worried about is there is these good names that are interested. And I'm speaking, people like Marco Rosa as well as another one who's a top coach. Yeah. Say we stick with Farke and then in 10 games, it's not worked out. 10, 15 games, we've won 1 in 10. And then these top coaches that could have been there now at other clubs. And now you're looking going, that's the kind of what's going to happen. I don't know. I hope it works for Farke because I do like him. Personally, I'm a really big fan of his. And I think with backing, we'll see a lot more than what we saw from his Norwich side, which was, look at the players, and they were not good. But I understand from an owner perspective how they would be, of course, you'd be looking. You're a Premier League team. A lot of managers want to coach this team. It's a big project. Yeah.
What do you think, Michael?
So I don't think the 49ers really have form for leaking a lot. And so if the leak, if it is actually a leak and it's not just some complete utter nonsense from nowhere, and I suspect it rather is, then it's likely to be an unauthorized one, rather than the club trying to do something strategic. It's, again, anything's possible and we don't know. We're only speculating, but it doesn't seem to me like it was a strategic move, mainly just because it's so freaking dumb. Like, why would you do that right now and not later? Like, it just doesn't seem like a smart idea when you're to be leaking that when you're trying to nail promotion. We were pretty close at the time, but then also trying to win the championship, presumably. It doesn't seem like a good idea to do it, and it doesn't strike me that the 49ers are dumb like that. They're a pretty smart, savvy organization. If someone did it, to me, I think it's an unauthorized leak, or someone got caught, having an interview with somebody or whatever. Which is not to say that stuff shouldn't happen. So, like, again, I agree with Locky. Like, you should have, I guess, an open mind to it at least. For those, coaches that are clearly very successful, if they are to come, the ones that you named earlier, like Slot and Iraola, like exactly what you just said, Locky, about missing out on them because they don't want to come mid-season for a relegation scrap because they're better than that, right? They're frankly better than that, and they don't want to come. And we could have Slot, if we had made the move in time, but we didn't. And who knows what would happen then, right? But like, clearly it was the right guy to identify. We just couldn't seal the deal because of how they left it. They left it too late, that season that we ended up going down. So yeah, I think, from the perspective of owners who want success and thinking about it even from the fan perspective, like, nobody ever bats an eye when you're talking about upgrading a player. So why do we worry about it so much when you're talking about upgrading a coach? Like, how is that different? Fundamentally, how is it
right?
Different?
Well, it's a risk. I mean, and coaches' stock always rise and falls. I mean, you got Graham Potter, and you've got, like, I don't know. There might be other examples, but I think the 49ers. So if I look at the 49ers in football. American football, they've been extremely loyal to their head coach and their front office. In fact, they haven't changed them in bad seasons and good seasons. Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah,
they hired
him. A really bad year, right? This year.
Yeah, he was young,
but
injuries killed them. But yeah, so it wasn't all his fault, but they've had them since 2017, it looks like. So And he's gone to 2 finals. He's gone to 2 Super Bowls, and then he's had some poor seasons. Now,
injuries killed him, and their quarterback regressed to the mean, essentially.
Right.
Because he didn't have the players around him that he's used to having.
Right. And he's still young. He's still, he's still in his he was in his mid 40s. He's been hired when he was early 40s. So, they're loyal to him. They've been loyal to the front office folks. When you look at all the promotions that came through yesterday, it was all internal candidates. It wasn't external people. They believe in kind of like promoting in and getting that culture right. However, there's not promotion and relegation in the NFL. And so the investment, when you start to sit around 15th or lower, you're kind of going, this is a big deal. And so they might be willing to pull that trigger because there's just so much at risk going down again. So that could change. I'm not saying, it could change. Now, for me, the whole thing is, I think the title matters. I really do. I mean, people are kind of saying we're up. Doesn't matter first or second. We're in the Prem. I actually think the 49ers give a crap about if we get that title. And that's why this weekend is important to them. I think they might look at Daniel and say, look, year 1, we took over. We didn't realize the mess, or there was a mess with all these contracts and all the relegation clauses. You were almost there. You should have gotten us all forgiven. We're going to go again. This year, I think they're going, you have the best squad in the division. Yeah. And we're at year 2 of premier of parachute payments, not the year 1. So we have less money. We're taking more risk on you. And you've stuck with the goalie. And that was your choice. He was in a press conference and said, it's my fault now if he concedes. He went and said, it's on me. And what happened? He conceded. They changed to Darlow. Everything's good.
Yeah.
Obviously, we could probably say without debate that if Meslier was changed earlier, we'd be up. We'd be in first place. We'd be hosting the trophy tomorrow. No problem. So that's my thought. My thought is actually, if he slips to second, I think the 49ers do kind of scratch their head and maybe look at replacing him. I think it does. I just think it's important. But this is all speculation. And I think if he gets first place, I think it might be everything's okay. We're going to give you 10 games and, good luck. What are your thoughts on what I just said, Michael? Kind of going back and forth.
So I think no. Listen, like you said at the beginning, I'm far skeptical, and I that's not a secret. I've made that very public before. So you're not releasing anything that I haven't said publicly just because I also said it privately. That's fine. I think he's broadly gotten it right this year on most of the big decisions. The goalkeeper is one of the ones where he clearly didn't and wasn't getting it right, although eventually he got it right. I guess better late than never, although it was pretty razor thin. Like we were that close to being sucked out of the top 2. So, it was just a wake-up call that he needed. Those kinds of marginal decisions, the squad manager, the rotation, the substitutions, the running Dan James out there to play when he clearly can't even run. Like those kinds of decisions when we have other options on the margins, to me, kind of separate Farke from being a good coach to being a great coach. And I don't think he's quite at the elite level. I don't know how he's going to perform, like at the elite level that you're going to need at the Premier League, because it's the marginal decisions that are going to make us or break us, I think, right? Like you get the big stuff right, that's great, but it's such fine margins there that the small stuff can kill you, and I really think that's going to happen unless he sort of takes a wake-up call, maybe has some tough conversations this summer about, hey, look, like we appreciate that you did this and this, but there's a few things there we got some concerns with. And if he's got too much of an ego, and I'm not saying that he does, I have no idea, but if he's got too much of an ego to make the adjustments this summer, he's going to be in trouble, which means we're going to be in trouble, and that's what I don't want to see. So, I hope that – I'm not saying that I want him replaced. What I'm saying is the 49ers would be stupid not to at least be open-minded about that. If a truly elite coach with like proven track record at the highest level is available and wants to come, then I think they'd be silly to sort of just turn that down for no reason. Obviously, everything has to be right for that to work. So again, not saying that I'm hardcore Farke out, but I am a little bit concerned about some of the marginal decisions, and I can see where there might be an opening to want to look for something else. Locky.
What do you think, Locky? What about everything?
Yeah, it's a hard one for me because I genuinely really like Farke just as the way in which.
Do you think first or second matters? Like, do you look at Farke differently if we get second?
I don't personally, but I understand what you're saying. They look at it and they want first place. They don't think, and Burnley shouldn't finish above us, right?
Yeah,
and if they do, I understand that. I do. Obviously I want us to win the title. I think for me, I want us to win it, but I'm not that fussed. I've seen a lot from this team that I like this year.
Yeah,
but Michael's right. This is just the reality of football. You're in the Premier League, and this ownership they're not doing this yo-yo thing. They want to stay in this league.
Not this one.
And if an elite manager is there and says, "Look, I want to come to this club," the 49ers have to look at that and go, "All right, let's have a conversation," because it's important. Because to them, this is everything, right? They need this. They need to stay in this league. All the plans for the stadium, they want to get us high at the cost. They want to get us into Europe. They have big plans. For Leeds United, the manager is huge in that. Yeah. And if there's a coach that is guaranteed, let's be honest, there's a coach that you will not get relegated with. That's a guarantee that you'll be in this league more or less. So I understand the risk, but then the other side of it, what I love about this team right now is in the last period of the season, the last kind of 6-7 games where it's been tough, they've got through it. Yeah, I think there's the real team connection there right now, and it's really strong. And character, and that can carry you in the Premier League for me. Yeah, and I think that's why the feeling around the manager and the players, that Bristol game was so good for me because there was loads of speculation about Farke's job just before that game. And I feel like the players went out and played for him a little bit and said, this is what we can do. This is how we can play under the manager. And I think they really like him. I think the players really do like him. And carrying that feeling of that the last 6 games have been unbelievably good. Some have been tough, scrappy, but we've got through them. Some have been outstanding football. Carrying that into the Premier League, that momentum with the manager and the players, just adding better players, for me, is important. Yeah. And I think if you take him away from that, although you could bring in a really good coach, I think a lot of the players won't like that decision and will feel that's not right. So it is a risk either way for me. It's a tough one. I think it's sensible to stay with him and really back him and bring in some quality players. That's just my personal opinion. But
I'll look at another example because obviously Bournemouth, they got rid of their manager, brought in Areola. Everything's worked out well. Yeah. And then you look at Forest because I think there's a lot of rumors like, is Leeds going to do the Forest model, 200 million? And then it's like 200 million, but like they were with Steve Cooper and they weren't really clicking in, and honestly might have gone down with us, or like we should have gone down had we not been so inept that season. So then they hire Nuno, things click in. He's got a system, but Nuno with Spurs, well, who knows? I mean, was he even given a chance there? He was hired pretty early in the season, I think, in the fall. So, I just, there's a risk either way. I think they might do it to protect their investment. If like you say, Locky, if it can be more guaranteed, but that'll go into more, obviously the player personnel and things that they get up, which will be fun. This will be a fun summer. I think transfer window wise, this is going to be one of the funnest summers in a good way. Like 2 summers ago when we were worried about everybody left, right, and central leaving. And last year where it was like kind of heartbreak because we were actually attached to some of the players like Ruter and Archie Gray. Like, that was a gut punch. Like it was all snakes before that.
Horrid.
These
horrid.
loanees. Last question is, we will just talk about Plymouth, right? How are you guys feeling going into the weekend? And do you think Leeds will lift the trophy? Let's go with Michael first.
Yeah, I think we'll do well, and I think we will win. And obviously, if we do that, we will lift the trophy. The reason I think that is essentially because the players are there. I think they're in a really good spot right now, and I think the spot that they're in right now is they no longer have any of the pressure that was on them before about getting promoted. That was the main objective. And yet they have all the desire to lift the trophy, which is not required of them, but they want it.
Yeah.
And that's a really good place to be. No pressure and all ambition. And to play with that kind of freedom, I think they're going to go out there and smash it.
Locky, Plymouth are playing for their championship lives.
Yeah.
Millwall is playing for their playoff berth. We are away. Burnley is home. What do you think? Does Leeds United lift the trophy?
I'd be worried if Plymouth were a little closer, but I think they need a 14-goal swing to stay up, which is probably not going to happen. So, and there was some press conferences with their players today, and it sounds like they know that they're saying now we almost did
They're
it.
down.
And we're so close. Yeah, so I'm all right now. If we had to play them in a crunch game with their manager, and I like him, actually like he's a good coach. He seems like a really good coach. He's done well with them in the short time, so I'd be worried, but I'm all right. Like Michael said, we just look so confident, so much freedom. You know, the like we are, we want to win it, of course we do, but we're already up, so you've got that in the background. But you want to finish the job. I don't want to go 97 points or 98 points and not win this league. That'd be devastating. And the parade's going to be amazing, but you want to be at the parade knowing you won the league, you know.
Yeah.
Champions, you know, you don't want to be second. So you've got to win it, and you've got to win.
Got to win it.
You've got all this we've done all year, almost 100 goals, get 100 points and win the league. It'd be outstanding.
Do it.
Yeah.
Get 7 goals.
Get it done,
lads. 7 goals you need. We've done it before this season. Let's do it again.
Hopefully it'll be like a killer whale playing with a wounded seal or
for the
something.
100 goals. Go for the 100 goals and 100 points. It'd be amazing.
There was one injury concern. It looks like Byram will play because Firpo is out, I believe. So Byram will play. I think he'll offer good defensive. What's that?
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, I believe Firpo is, and James is out. Rothwell's back in. And the Isaac Schmidt is, I believe, a doubt as well. So Byron, there won't be a lot of depth at the fullback position, but you know, hopefully that won't matter. We should still win. I mean, even if Ampadu has to play, you know, fullback, I would expect us to win.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks, boys. Good to see you. And like, comment, subscribe, etc., etc. Locky Leeds. He's at Locky Leeds on Twitter and YouTube. And Michael Maynard at Maynard M on the Twitter. And where else can we find you, Michael?
The other one.
Maynard M? Michael M?
What? Yeah, I think I am on that one as well on Blue Sky.
Blue Sky.
Yeah.
Check them out on Blue Sky. And will you be doing, you used to do like.
I'm at Maynard M there as well.
Maynard M. And you used to do Premier League like fan forums. I don't know how else to describe it. Like the Premier League channel. You used to come on that. You
Premier League Productions, which is the broadcasting station, like the channel that's run by the league, that they do for all their international coverage. So everywhere that's not the UK. So they have a lot of shows. Some of them involve fans, and I was a regular contributor for a number of years. Well, all the years we were in the Premier League on one of their shows, and then sometimes was brought on to comment as well on another one. Am I going to be doing that again? I don't know yet. They'll reach out to me probably if they want me to come back in the summer. I know when we went down, they said, "Hey, whenever you come back up, we'll let you know." Like,
okay,
back in. So who knows? But things could change. It's been a while now, so they may have other people they want to bring on. But if they ask, I'll probably go back on again, and it's fun.
Excellent. Well, thank you, gentlemen, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for tuning in.